Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Sunday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. This one is going to be looking at AEW as we get ready for Revolution tonight. So this is going to be a mega preview. We are going to start with a segment we did earlier this week, looking at some of the big early storylines going into this one. Then we'll come back with the Dynamite Recap that we're doing today and get ready with the full card preview as well. So let's dive right in and look at what some of the storylines we were looking at going into the week in AEW. While the WWE is making big moves with their biggest stars, AEW is just trying to build some momentum, and the next spot for them to do that is Revolution this weekend. A lot of talk about AEW over the last number of weeks and months. Certainly a lot of talk on this program as well. I think AEW, like I said, I think they're building some momentum, and I think there's a lot of fun that is being had right now. And one thing you know is they always deliver on pay-per-view. At the top, the Cope Moxley storyline is finally starting to ramp up a little bit towards this weekend, with Copeland actually building some momentum. And you get Willow with the concerto on Marina Shafir. That's a great spot for Willow and a great place to be in going into maybe a feud there with Marina. And having Mox be a little vulnerable finally for the first time. I'm not sure this is the time to take it off of Moxley. It's weird to say that because, like, this storyline has not gone anywhere, really, and has not really progressed, and is actually a big turnoff for a lot of people. And so it is weird to say, well, you can't stop it now. I don't know if Cope is the guy to do it. Just because of like how anti-AEW it has been. Like, I feel like it does feel like it is building up to an Omega or an Ospreay to get control of AEW back. And so I feel like this would be, while it has been unsatisfactory so far, I think it would be a waste of some real dull months to just bail on it now before you get to what could be an ultimate big payoff of Will Ospreay winning and having like the Lex Luger, this is our night moment at an All-In or something like that. Like, I think you can kind of ramp back up with this and have it really be a Death Riders v AEW thing in a very special way. Like, I think there is something there. They just haven't got to it yet, but I think you are close enough to it that you can't just bail now, if that makes sense. Just because Christian has a briefcase, you know? So, interested to see where that one goes. The rest of the card, though, looks amazing right now. Like, Ospreay and Fletcher in a steel cage match alone is unbelievable. Like, it's a punchline in wrestling sometimes, but main event anywhere in the country. Like, that's just going to be spectacular. And Omega against Takeshita for the International Championship. I would presume Omega wins this one, and then he gets Okada at All In, and you do kind of a title for title thing there. So I think I think this match is going to be one that is just otherworldly. Think Omega Gabe Kidd at Wrestle Dynasty out there. MJF against Hangman Adam Page is going to be so good. Like, the feud, the build up to this has been excellent and has been exactly what you needed it to be. And so you have a very solid foundation to put together a match on, and probably a feud that will continue beyond that. Swerve and Ricochet, the added touch of it being a number one contenders match, just so Swerve gets another opportunity at Ricochet. It leaves some doubt as to who is going to win, especially with Nana giving his kind of pump-up speech to Swerve and just kind of seeing, like, just kind of being like, hey, we kind of got to get this thing rolling again. And so it leads to, like, is Swerve going to get it back? But then it does feel like the winner of this is just kind of setting up to lose en route to Ospreay getting an opportunity at the title. So what direction they go with any of these guys makes for a lot of very interesting discussions. And so that is the one thing, is that AEW, for a bit, like, there was no story that you really could sink your teeth into. And at least now you can see how they're starting to branch everything out again. And a lot of different webs are being spun, and it can make a lot of sense. So you're just hoping that there's some strong follow through with a lot of those things. Mercedes Moné against Momo Watanabe is damn close to a dream match. That's going to be so much fun to see those two kind of women's wrestling legends go at it. And then Toni Storm against Mariah May could reach another level after a good Mariah May attack on Collision. So like this show is stacked right now. And when you look at it, there are, I would say 7 of the 9 matches could be main event level ones. The Hurt Business against the Outriders, probably not. And the opening multi-person tag with a conglomeration, whatever, no. But aside from that, everything I just talked about could main event a wrestling pay-per-view, and I would pay my slightly hard-earned money to go out and watch it. So, yeah. Excellent, excellent, excellent card that has been built. AEW always delivers on pay-per-view. It is just the build up to it that sometimes is lacking and the follow-through that is a little lacking. The build up to this has started to hit a stride that AEW hasn't hit in a while. So very excited to see what the conclusion is for that. AEW Dynamite going down on the road to Revolution. Let's break it all down. We began with MJF yelling at the camera for a little bit. We'll get into that promo in a little bit. But then we get Swerve Strickland and Ricochet in the contract signing talking segment. That was exactly what it needed to be. It is becoming a little bit of a trope in AEW when there's a back and forth and then the heel says something that the babyface finally gets like, or that I guess it was the other way around with Adam Page and MJF. Like it's a fine storytelling device because it is like, oh, so that's the one that really triggers you and stuff like that. It is becoming a little bit like they do it in everything, but it's a smart bit of storytelling, so we won't get too upset about them just yet. But this one hit all the notes that it needed to. It is going to be an incredible match coming up on Sunday. It was a little bit funny when Ricochet goes for the thing, and then he's about to get it, and he obviously, he over-dramatically with his head so that his hat flies off. It was a little bit funny, but both guys kind of get the seriousness of the situation across, and the importance of this to both of them. So a very, very good job, I thought, with both of them. We got an 8-man tag match that was really entertaining. A lot of good workers in the ring, so that checks out. A pretty decent setup, I thought, for Ospreay against Fletcher on Sunday. When Fletcher came out, we talked last week about The Rock coming out and the aura that he had while Fiend is playing and he's walking up the thing. Obviously, this is not that, but there was a little bit of this is a dude when he walked out on the stage. I thought they shot it really well, and I thought he conveyed that very well. So this Fletcher-Ospreay match is going to be just incredible. Copeland against Wheeler Yuta. Not a bad setup for Cope trying to turn Wheeler Yuta. The match itself was good. I thought they did a good job of kind of getting across, Cope is trying to beat Wheeler Yuta at his own game. And the commentary getting across, this may not be the strategy to use against this guy. So maybe just ease up on that a little bit there, Cope, because this is a pretty good chain wrestler you're going up against. But then, instead of just the attacks that he has been doing on other guys, Yuta is the one who has been vulnerable to veteran guys trying to bring him in the past. So this is kind of a smart move, I think, to show that this isn't just an all-out assault. There's a little bit of mind games going on here with Cope as well, and it shows a bit of a vulnerability for Mox. And again, we've been talking about that for weeks, that there needs to be a little bit of intrigue and a little bit of vulnerability on the Death Rider side and on Jon Moxley, as a book just fell and shook my entire desk. But this has improved, and this has gotten a lot better in AEW. And so I think that there is at least a little bit of intrigue now going into this match on Sunday. This is certainly not the most anticipated match or anything like that, but there is at least a little bit now where there wasn't a while ago. Just a quick reminder, didn't say it off the top, but swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime to get that 25% off. Also, this podcast today presented by Sea of Dead. MJF tried to light Hangman on fire, so there's that. Seems a bit extreme, but it does kind of go with the story and backing up what he has been saying. And so one of the things that we've really been focusing on this show is believability and what are these characters' motivations and what are their intentions and all of those things. And this, I think, really drove home the motivations of MJF and what is really fueling this entire feud, pardon the pun. So a really fun final angle. MJF's promos are really starting to get strong again after what I thought was a little bit of lazy stuff with Jeff Jarrett and all of those things. But this has really kicked into high gear, and has been one of the feuds of AEW so far. The women's tag match was fine. It wasn't close to what it needed to be to erase the memory of the awful angle with Thunder Rosa, Penelope Ford, and Megan Bayne that started this whole feud. That's just going to be something that is going to go down in infamy as just a horrendous segment. And one of the worst things that you'll see on North American national television in professional wrestling. But Megan Bayne, I think, still has a lot of the star qualities. They just need to get the ball rolling with her a little bit. The one thing, like, she does the kicking the dirt back thing at the end, which is like, it is what it is, but she does it in such like a quick way that it's almost comedic and just kind of takes you out of the character a little bit. So it's a little bit of a thing, but I mean, like, she has an incredible look. She's very good in the ring, carries herself really well. And I think a pairing of her and Penelope Ford is actually a little bit interesting. Jay White runs through Max Caster. The angle is so dreadful and just so unentertaining. Hopefully that this, like, something comes of this soon, but it is so bad. And then seeing Billy Gunn in WWE 2K25, you're almost like, man, have they just gotten rid of Billy Gunn and they're just punting on everything? Because this is so horrendous and just an awful follow-up to what was an incredibly popular tag team with the Acclaimed. You get a Jay White promo out of it, so I guess that's fun. But that's... yeah, it was so bad. And I mean, the Jay White promo was good. A lot of people are assuming that it is so over the top babyface that at some point it's going to go heel. And Jay White is a much better heel than he is a babyface. But the babyface side, or the babyface side needs some help, I guess, on AEW right now. So I don't mind if he hangs out in that for a little bit more. Swig of water for the working man with the Sea of Dead sticker. Comes with every order of Sea of Dead. Just going to put that out there. And then tag team match to close was as fun as you would expect. You have some of the most talented performers in the world going out there and doing the damn thing. So you would assume that was going to be really good, and it was a good one. So kudos to them for that. So it does... the main thing that I thought it accomplished was it gets Brody across as a main eventer with these guys. And so it did feel a little bit forced and a little bit rushed, but they tie it in with an injury with Buddy Matthews and all of those things. This is a gigantic moment for Brody King coming up on Sunday night, and one that I think he needs to take advantage of, and one that I think he will take advantage of. So very, very excited to see how all of that plays out. So that was AEW Dynamite. Now we have a pay-per-view to get ready for, as Revolution goes down this Sunday on pay-per-view. That's today. So let's take a look now at our AEW pay-per-view preview. AEW is now on the cusp of a revolution as the pay-per-view goes down this weekend from Los Angeles, California. In the main event, it is Jon Moxley defending the AEW title against Adam Copeland, but an incredible card gets us ready for what should be a very fun pay-per-view. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. Will Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage match. This is obviously going to be a spectacular, incredible match, and has match of the year potential, I think, written all over it. These two are two of the best performers in the world. Kyle Fletcher has taken full advantage of this spotlight, and this feud has elevated him. Pardon the pun with Ospreay's theme song. But it is now time for Ospreay to move up into the world title picture. And so I think a win here rockets him up into the Owen and gets him ready now for a shot at whoever the champion is at All In, or a Kenny Omega thing, or a something. But I think that this is going to... this one goes to Ospreay and now gets us ready for a pay-per-view and a world title main event with Will Ospreay. Kazuchika Okada taking on Brody King for the Continental Championship. I still would be stunned if Brody ends up winning this here. I don't think the title has done anything to help Okada, but I am still wondering if, because AEW just has too many titles right now, if we do get, and I know I play around with the name, but I do wonder if we get an international championship and a continental championship kind of coming together with these two, with Okada and Omega. And so, I mean, look, maybe this is a way to get the Continental Championship off of Okada as we build up to an Omega feud in the summer, but I still would be surprised if that was the case. I think they need to build up quite a bit more momentum with Okada, who has felt like way too much of an afterthought given how talented of a performer that he is. But this is what we talked about in the Dynamite recap. This is a phenomenal opportunity for Brody King, and one that I would be surprised if he doesn't take full advantage of. This match is going to be spectacular coming up on Sunday, and I cannot wait to see what these guys end up throwing out there. So my prediction is Okada. You could, like, Brody would be the hometown guy, so you could do something with that, but I would be surprised if that ends up being the case. MJF against Hangman Adam Page. The buildup has been incredible. I would imagine we get some kind of an MJF shenanigans that starts this feud off and builds these two up to a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more as this goes on. But I think that this is still just the culmination probably of Act 1 in what should be a really good feud. And I think that means MJF, probably by way of a kick in the dick, ends up getting the victory. AEW Tag Team titles on the line. The Hurt Syndicate taking on the Outrunners. The Outrunners have been so much fun, and it's a fantastic gimmick that everyone really enjoys. I do think, though, that we are at a point where having them beat the Hurt Syndicate would be a bit too much. Hurt Syndicate is, I think, a fantastic group right now. They have a lot of momentum, again, in AEW, and the crowd seems to be getting behind them. So I would not be messing with this at all. I think Hurt Syndicate ends up getting the win. Mercedes Moné taking on Momo Watanabe for the TBS Championship. I think this will be a fun match. I think that, we talked about this being a dream match. They have wrestled before, but I think that this is still, for North American television, this is still a dream match scenario. And two of the best that are in the world right now. I would be stunned if this is where Mercedes Moné's run comes to an end. I think we get another victory for her here and continue to build her up into a main event level performer on AEW. But Momo Watanabe is going to get a very good match out of Mercedes Moné. Number 1 contenders match for the AEW title as Swerve Strickland takes on Ricochet. I am anticipating, not to give too much away, but I'm anticipating a heel wins in the main event tonight, which should probably lead to a Swerve Strickland victory here. I think Swerve against Mox would be a very intriguing world title feud, but I also am anticipating maybe some Prince Nana shenanigans turning on a Swerve Strickland or something along those lines and costing him there. Then you get Swerve costing Ricochet the title, and that leads to some kind of a very violent blow-off feud or something along those lines coming up in a couple of months' time. But I think you could maybe go that route, and so honestly, that's probably the direction I think they will go. I think Ricochet probably gets the win here over Swerve Strickland, even though I'm getting a little bummed out with how many times they've beat Swerve Strickland. I think we kind of need to ramp that guy up again, because he carries himself in such a phenomenal way and just screams main event talent every time he is on the television. And so because of that, you can't afford to beat him as much as they have, but I think we're getting to a point where probably enough now, I would say. Women's Championship, Toni Storm taking on Mariah May. I believe Storm is the person to win. Keep the title on her and keep building up her momentum. I do wonder if maybe you get May so that it leads to just some massive rematch, but I also wonder, now that again we are entering a period where you're going to start to be building toward All In, I wonder if Mariah re-enters the Owen and tries to get it back that way, and you get one more big match in Dallas there. But I think that this has been a phenomenal feud to elevate Mariah May to levels that I don't know if anyone thought was possible for her, but this is now Toni Storm's time, and it's time, I think, probably to end this one for a little bit. So I think Toni Storm remains timeless and remains the women's champion. Konosuke Takeshita taking on Kenny Omega for the International Championship. I think Omega gets this one here. I think that we've kind of been messing around with Kenny Omega and some of these other guys just not being in the main event picture, not getting the championships for too long. It's now time to get Kenny Omega, Best Bout Machine, back up and running in AEW. And so I think that this is probably the direction you go. Give Kenny Omega the International Championship and build up some of its prestige that way. But this match is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to see these two guys lock horns. Again, we talked about it earlier. There are about 7 or 8 matches on here that could be match of the night, potential match of the year, and main eventers on this show. It is such a stacked card and going to be a phenomenal bit of television coming up this weekend. And I think Omega Takeshita really does take the cake. Then you get to the main event. It is Jon Moxley taking on Cope for the AEW World title. I still think this Death Rider thing plays out toward All In. And I mean, maybe I am focusing a little bit too much on All In. We are in March right now, and All In is in August. So there is still, how calendars work, the rest of March, April, May, June, and July to get us there. So maybe I am a little bit too focused on that right now, and maybe it's just because we're into WrestleMania season that, okay, well, it's AEW's WrestleMania, and you kind of build up to it that way. But I feel like if this Death Rider storyline is going to end here, while I understand cutting bait and all of that, it does feel like you're getting a touch more believability behind it, and you are kind of losing some of the House of Torture elements that make people a little bit annoyed with this feud. And I just feel like some of that would be in vain if you just cut bait and start over again with Adam Copeland as the champion. And then obviously you get the Christian Cage potential catch in with that briefcase that he has for his win at All In a year ago. But so there are obvious storyline ways that you could go about this and have it make sense. I just feel like if you've already gone this far with this story, I feel like you kind of have to see it through to its conclusion of either Omega, Ospreay, or even a Darby Allin coming up at an All-In. So I still think Mox gets the win here. I think this match will be really good. And I still think that there's some recovery that needs to be done with the Death Rider story, but I think they've already started some of that, showing at least a little bit of vulnerability, and I think that there is some excitement around this, at least for me, coming up this weekend. So that is going to do it for the AEW Revolution preview. Thank you so much for hanging out today. As always, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. And as always, we are fueled by Swift Energy. Check out swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime for that 25% off. As you are seeing this, I am on a flight to Japan, and so the schedule around here is going to change. The live streams on Twitch, those are going to be gone for a little bit. Not going to be back until April. So twitch.tv/primetimepk, would love a follow, but understanding I'm not going to be on there for a little while. Check it out on all my socials at PrimetimeKlein. Going to have a lot of fun stuff from out in Japan, but in terms of where the podcast and YouTube is going to be, it's going to be a lot of MLB previews coming up in the next little while. Monday, we are going to have the NFL free agency full-on preview as we get ready for the start of that. We did a lot of predictions and still a few extra ones to go. Tuesday, it's going to be NHL trade deadline, and then we're going to get into a lot of baseball throughout the next little bit. And so I do want to preface a lot of that by saying we're taping this all on March 8th, so there is going to be some stuff that's a little bit off, potentially. So hopefully not, but we'll explain as kind of the shows go on. So wherever you are tuning in, make sure you either give us a subscribe, give me a follow, or whatever it may be. If you're watching on YouTube, you can get these available in podcast, on the go, wherever you get your podcast. And if you're listening to this, you can watch these on YouTube and on Daily Motion. Thank you guys so much for all the support. It has been a blast doing these with you. Yeah, enjoy the wrestling tonight, and enjoy the rest of the month. And I'll talk to you guys. You'll see me a lot over the next little bit, but I'll talk to you guys live again next month. Have a great month, everybody. Talk to you later. I'm out.